Hello and welcome to another exclusive interview as part of the Excellence series, where we dig into life and see what we can find to become more excellent through clarity and action. My name is Scott Kokenauer, and I'm your host, and I'm so glad you've taken time out to tune in. My guest today is Cody Isabel. Cody lives in the Kansas City area, where he leverages the power of neuroscience and technology to strengthen the minds of young people and develop influential leaders. Welcome to the interview, Cody.
Thanks so much for having me, Scott.
Good, good. We're going to get into that neuroscience and technology here in a second, but let's
Heck
start
yeah.
from the beginning. Where did you grow up, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
Yeah, I love those questions. I was born in Chicago, but I moved to Kansas City when I was very young. So I grew up primarily in Kansas City. A lot of family in Chicago, a lot of memories there. But I did grow up primarily in KC. Consider myself a KC native. Very sad this weekend with the old Chiefs. RIP. That's all right. But when I was younger, though, I wanted to be a neurologist, like a brain doctor. That was very much what I was, especially in high school. I kind of started tapping into that. My high school had a really good, really cool project Lead the Way. It's pretty sure it's a national program, but the biomedical track, I got into it very, like my freshman year, I got into studying the nervous system. And from that point, we studied the nervous system, and it was human body system. So after the nervous system was cardiovascular, skeletal, all the different body systems. And I went to my teachers like, why are we studying these other things when the nervous system is the one that controls all of them? And so she's like, Cody, we're going to the next chapter. I was like, I never went to the next chapter. However, so I neuroscience and being a neurologist, neurosurgeon, when you're young, it's neurosurgeon, the fanciest thing you could think of. Progressive neurologist and things like that. So, but that's what I wanted to do for sure.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, so here you are. Your LinkedIn profile, which we're displaying at the bottom where we can reach you, it says you leverage the power of neuroscience and technology. So tell me, what does that mean? What are you doing?
For sure. So it's kind of three things. My company's name is Conceive, Believe, Achieve. That's kind of our holding company, and it has three units underneath it. And so when we say leverage the power of neuroscience and tech, we have literally a neuroscience business unit underneath Conceive, Believe, Achieve, a technology business unit, and then a neurotechnology business unit. So three separate things. And I primarily operate the neuro portion of that, which is some of the coaching and the mindset things that I talk about. You and I connected while I was talking about some of those things, jumping on. And then the technology department is where we're focusing on app development. We do that B2B for companies, like custom development. And it also fuels that same custom development fuels our neurotech business unit, which is more of our R&D futuristic vision. Like we're in the garage building things there. So leveraging the power of neurotech or neurotechnology, neuro and tech comes in the form of, to me, when I started the coaching that I was doing within the neuro business unit, I've always looked at like my phone and my computer and all these things have operating systems.
Right.
And I was like, okay, if computers are very much based off brains, why does your brain not have one? And that was some of my initial curiosity within neuroscience in general. Yeah. And so then as I learned more and more about neuroscience and how to make it more simple, that became a very much a passion for me, is helping people understand your brain is like a supercomputer. And so helping them understand that when they are using their brain, it is a computer, and how can they become better leaders by understanding those things? How can they like strengthen the thing between their ears, like fine tune that machine that's between there? That's some of the coaching that I do through what I started it with a brain operating system, is what I literally called it. Far too complicated for people to kind of simply understand. And so I started to frame it more as a hero's operating system. And so helping them and relating it to kind of like Iron Man, and helping younger people, 18 to 26 is who I primarily focus on. Anxiety, depression, stress, addiction, 50% of that group is struggling with all of those things. And to me, as a neuroscientist, those are chemical reactions in their brains, in that supercomputer. So helping get that straight first, and then helping them understand the brains of the people around them second. It's kind of like in the airplane. Put your own mask on first, and then the person next to you. That is really helping them. in that understanding of others, that is where leadership comes in, being able to lead with the thing between your ears. And so that's a lot of what we're doing on the neuro side. And then tech, what started to happen was I realized, wait a minute, individual coaching is not as scalable as I would like it to be. And so on the tech side, when I brought in the technology, that is developing a way to scale coaching that's outside of just, oh, let me just throw something up on Trainual or whatever it is. It's just impersonal, and you can't ask questions to a computer screen. And so that was frustrating to me. And so my co-founder in Conceive, Believe, Achieve is my technical side. She's the tech person. She's a savant. Her name's Gwen. Very, 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 very smart, much smarter than I am. And she's like, I think I could solve this problem and help you solve this problem. At the time, she was running her own tech company. I was like, well, why don't we combine? And so what she had been doing was the custom tech, the apps essentially that we're building. She's like, I think that if we make a game out of this and we put it into a medium, apps and things like that younger people already understand and people are already shifting to, I think that we could really take the neuroscience and the education and the different things that you're doing, your methodology, put it into a game and into a piece of technology to help people learn those things through a game and through an app experience, kind of like Super Mario, if you've ever played Super Mario. So that's kind of how the two come together to combine neuro and tech.
For the leaders listening to this episode, what are some destructive mindsets? What are the mindsets that keep a leader from being a hero?
For sure. So the three that I would say, there's really three specific ones. And before we dive too far, understanding that everyone struggles with these three things primarily. Am I good enough? Right? That's the first one. I'm different would be a mindset that people think. And then I want, but those like the three killers, like mindset wise. So I'm not good enough, right? Comes from feeling like you're not enough, right? No matter what you do, you can't be enough. And that spirals into your head. And it's like, is that really true? Do you really believe that? And it causes you anxiety, worry, fear, those types of things. I'm different comes from, this is one I work with, especially young leaders. This is a huge one, honestly. But I'm different, meaning that, oh, my friends are making so much more than me. Oh, my friends have it figured out. I'm different. They can do this, but I can't because I'm different. They are thinking something different because I'm different. They can lead because, but it's just not true. And so this one that is right in the front of a lot of young people is the expectation they have out of college is that they're going to get into a job, they're going to be paid tons of money and all this kind of stuff. And then they get out and they realize, oh, I'm not paid as much as I thought I was. And that gets them kind of spiraling into, well, my friends are getting paid way more. They've got this figured out. And so one of the funny exercises I do to help flip that is it's like, dude, have you taken a moment to Google the median income for your age? And the second people do that, they're like, whoa, I'm making more than the median. I can't believe it. I was like, okay, so you're really that different? And they're like, no, I guess I'm not. So that's a huge one, is really understanding that I'm different. And the fear of that comes from your brain is a very old piece of machinery. Back in the day, if you were different, you were thrown out of the tribe. And if you were thrown out of the tribe, you died. Mm-hmm. So being different is a little bit scary to our brains now. So the fear and anxiety that could produce, I would say that's a negative thing. But then also remember, like, we are not in a tribe. We're not in the same environment that we used to be in. And so being different now today is not as bad as you think it is. And do you really want to be vanilla and like everyone else? So it's kind of a double-edged sword because if you go too far one way, you get worried, nervous, worried, anxious, scared. And if you go too far the other way, you are the same as everyone. And do you really want to be the same as everyone? Probably not. So that's a double-edged one. That's a scary one. And then I want but is one that I work on a ton. I want to succeed, but I want money, but I want to be fit, but, right? Whatever's after that but, that is typically another form of, it's a money concept belief. It's a, they have a different, like, I want to be fit, but they have a different physical fitness. I want to make money, but I don't have a mom or dad that can give me a loan or if supplied me with money, or whatever that piece of head trash after the but, I call it head trash, or that limiting belief, whatever you want to call it. Those would be the three big ones. I want, but I'm different, and I'm not enough, or am I enough? Either version of that.
So conceivably, if we can address all three of those, then we can make progress toward a hero's operating system, right?
Yeah, very much, 100%. The big piece, that operating system has kind of three components, and the middle portion of it, that's where I focus on mindset, are those three pieces. But the hero's body, the hero's mind, and the hero's journey. And so when you think of like the body, you think of like Iron Man, his suit, right? So what does he have to do to maintain that suit? He's got to go and try it out in the real world. He's got to oil it. He's got to charge it up. So for a human, for us, your body, right? Exercise, sleep, nutrition.
Right.
Pretty simple. So fine tuning that machinery. And then the mind is kind of like the arc reactor in the middle. So that's what we just talked about, mindset stuff, but then also understanding, how does that thing work? What is your brain asking you? It only asks you it only does really five things and asks you three questions. And so happy to go through them, but the first one is,
sure,
the things it does are senses, perceptions, feelings, thoughts, and actions. Those are the five things that it does. Just understanding that, and I'm happy to dive. If you'd like, I can go deeper into them specifically. And then the three questions are duration, path, and outcome. Very simple things. So
let's look at the five. I'm interested. You've got my attention.
Sure. Yeah. So and this is why I love neuroscience so much, because anyone can be it. Once we'll go through these things, listen to it a couple times. And once you understand these things, you are a neuroscientist, because you have a brain, and so do I. Right? And if you can understand these things, all scientists do are test things. If I step off this curve and there's ice under it, then what? Guess, make a prediction, and then go test it. That's your brain you're a scientist, right? So that's why I love neuroscience. So the first one is senses. That's your brain's number one job, is gathering sensory information in. So every second, there's about 6 trillion sensory inputs coming into your brain. Our eyes drive 40% of that. A lot of it is unconscious things that you don't even necessarily understand, but your eyeballs are actually a piece of your brain. Like, they're not just your eyeballs. They're not connected to your brain. They are your brain. In your development, like, a piece of your brain gets pushed and squeezed out into your eye sockets. And so your eyes are your brain. And so there's a lot of sensory information that comes through your eyes that you probably don't even realize. But senses are things like feelings, touch. So feeling, which would be touch, taste, sense, your normal senses, but then also proprioception. So if you've ever felt like someone's looking at you, then you're like, and they are looking at you, that's proprioception. And that's more of an unconscious, typically more unconscious. Navy SEALs train that, and it's kind of cool what they can do with that. So your senses are just the sensory information that is coming into you. 6 trillion of those a second are coming in. Only 2,000 of those 6 trillion are conscious, though. And so that's kind of the second piece of that, which is perception. So what is perception? That's where that's a spotlight for your senses, essentially. There's something in your brain called your thalamus, and what happens is all these senses are coming in. Well, what's important? Is it more important to see the saber-toothed tiger running at me, or to feel the ground beneath my feet? Right? And so your thalamus is the one over time that determines, saber-toothed tiger sense is much more important. And so we don't have saber-toothed tigers today, but you still have a thalamus. And so that perception is when your brain is taking its sensory information through that piece of your brain called your thalamus, and you control this. It's like a spotlight. You have conscious control of this. Your senses, they flood in without your control. You can't stop it. Like, there are sounds and noises and things coming at you all the time. Your thalamus, though, is your perception. So a really easy example is if you're wearing a watch right now, can you feel it on your wrist? Or can you feel the difference in temperature of the air between your left and right ear? Right? Like different things like that, you can really start to hone in and put a spotlight on. Or can you feel your shoes squeezing your feet? right? Until I said something, those were senses that were coming in, but they were in that 6 trillion that's unconscious to you.
Okay.
Your thalamus, you have cognitive, you have control over. You can determine what you focus on and what you spotlight as far as senses. Your thalamus just is like, oh yeah, I wear shoes every day. I don't need to tell Cody or Scott that, yeah, I can feel your shoes on your feet. That's just not important information for our day-to-day lives. Probably kind of annoying. And so that's perception. And when you bring those perceptions in, you're also, that's the same place that you either get judgment typically or learning something. That's where a belief is challenged, or if it's, or not challenged, a belief filter is what those senses are coming through as well. So if you just imagine it's like a filter. So if you have seen a dog and you're seeing a dog kind of coming at you, think of all the senses of that dog coming at you. Well, your brain remembers other dogs too. And so the last time you perceived a dog, or maybe the last 50 times you perceived a dog, or what you saw on the news or what you saw on Facebook, whatever it was, if it was, oh, dogs are mean, bark, scary, they run at you to kill people. What when those senses come in of that dog, your thalamus is saying, oh crap, dude, you gotta get out of here. That dog's scary. And that's a belief filter that those senses come through. And your thalamus is like, all right, we need to be focused. This could not be good for us. We could die. Or the opposite could also be true. If you've grown up with dogs and dogs have always been happy and loving and they've slept in the bed with you and they like you grew up with family dogs, what would your belief think? What would the belief filter be then? Oh, I wonder if I could pet this dog, right? And so you can like kind of understand how we are all different humans. Our perceptions are all different. Our beliefs are all different. So it's all based on your past experience. So that's senses and perceptions. And that gets you down into feelings, thoughts, and actions. Those are the next ones that are really the most like the meat of these things. That's a lot of real neuroscience. Feelings, thoughts, and actions are things that we all understand. Yeah. So those senses come in and those perceptions are made. And then you get feelings and thoughts, like interchangeably sometimes, whichever one stirs. But let's keep with the dog example. If that filter or that belief, when you perceive that dog coming into you, is you're scared, you're feeling nervous, worried, anxious, scared. You're like anxiety, stress related. Let's get out of here. You're thinking dogs are mean. They bark. They scare. I'm worried. I'm scared. That's what your brain is. Your subvocalized or that voice inside your head. That's what it's saying. And then what action does that cause? Right? I need to book it out of here, or go to the other side of the road, or jump out of the way, right? That's the feeling, thoughts, and actions. This all happens really, really fast. But if you pause and can take a minute and be like, why, and start to question yourself, why do I want to run away from this? Why am I jumping back? Why am I scared of this? You can start to move backwards through that and start to work through. So I took this action. What was I thinking that made me take that action? Oh, I'm scared of dogs. I don't like dogs. What was I feeling? And again, feelings and thoughts can go interchangeably. So I took this action. Why did I take the action? Because I felt this way. Well, why did I feel this way? Because my brain was telling me that dogs are scary and I need to get out of here. Well, why do I think that? Oh, in my childhood, I watched my brother get mauled by a dog. It's just, I love dogs, so I don't want just really easy example. And so then you can even think of senses. Oh, okay, so this dog walking at me, I can hear it barking, I can hear it panting, I can hear its tongue out, I can start to smell it. All of those senses would be the trigger. So A, B, C. What's the trigger? What's the belief? And what's the action? Right? You just think of it that simply. You can really start to use those 5 things to understand what your brain is, what's it doing, and you can start to ask and poke questions at it.
So a leader, if I can interrupt, leaders struggling with a very difficult conversation that he or she knows is coming up in the day and is really nervous. It's 8 a.m. The meeting is at 2 p.m. How would a leader go through this process to become mindful like that and go into that conversation much stronger?
Yeah, that's actually a perfect segue into the 3 questions your brain asks. Because the 3 questions it asks are duration, path, and outcome. Duration, path, and outcome. And so when you are nervous, worried, anxious, scared, like let's pretend you're worried about this meeting. Well, if your brain doesn't have the answer to one of those 3 questions, that's where the anxiety comes from. And you can start to understand the 5 things your brain is doing by answering these questions. So duration is, how long is this going to take? We could use the pandemic, right? There's so much anxiety and all this kind of stuff right now because of the pandemic and stuff. Well, why? Well, duration. Who knows how long this thing is going to last, especially when it first started. No one knows. Well, your brain is worried about that subconsciously because it doesn't have an answer to how long it's going to take. What's the outcome? Is my business going to fail? Am I going to be able to feed my kids? Am I going to be able to survive? If your brain doesn't know that, you're worried, you're nervous, you're anxious, you're scared. And the path, how are we going to get out of this? This guy says that, this one says this. Should I get the vaccine? Should I not get the vaccine? Should I go out? Should I wear a mask? Should I not? It has no idea what the path is. And so if you're a leader that is going into that meeting, which one of these questions? Do you not know the outcome of the meeting? Are you worried about that? Like, oh God, they're going to be pissed off at me. They're going to hate me. They're not going to like me. I'm so scared about that. That's you got to hone into, that's an outcome. The path. Do you not know how that conversation is going to go? Like, have you not structured how you want? I'm going to start with my intro. I'm going to kind of lay out the agenda. Then we're going to go into, I'm going to give him time to talk or her time to talk. Then I'll have time to talk. And like, do you not have a structure, a path for that? So outcome, path, and duration. How long is that? Is it going to, you said 8 a.m. and then 2 p.m., right? So that's the duration. That you have an answer for that one. So my guess would be a leader who is worried or nervous about a conversation. You understand the duration because you know how long the meeting is going to go for, or maybe you don't. And so that could be where you go back to. But if you can get down to one of those three things, you can start to understand, okay, so I don't know what the path is, or I don't know what the outcome is going to be. Okay, well, is there a way that you could write that down? Is there a way that you could, what is an ideal outcome for you? What's the perfect outcome for you? Could you ask them, hey, this is what I would like to talk about. By the end of this conversation, what's an outcome, or what do you want to make sure we talk about, right? And then you're answering outcome. And so your brain then is like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I know what the outcome is, or I know what I want the outcome to be. And it becomes less nervous about that thing.
Yeah, so this is like self-imposing a pattern interrupt.
Right? Yes, 100%. I love pattern interrupts. Yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Once you figure out those questions, you go back to the 5 things, right? They go back and forth. And so once you figure out, okay, it's outcome, perfect. So what we'd mentioned before, senses, perceptions, feelings, thoughts, and actions. Well, you can go backwards to change your feelings and thoughts. So what is anxiety and it's a question. Anxiety is just a question. What is it? Am I good enough? Am I important? Am I going to survive? It's just a question that's unanswered. And so you can go backwards. And so this is motivation is a really easy one. I think that I talked about that with you a little bit. But once you realize, oh, it's the outcome, what action could I take, right? So senses, perceptions, feelings, thoughts, and actions. But if you go backwards through that progressions, actions, feelings, thoughts, perceptions, senses, you can go back and change your feelings and thoughts by taking an action.
Right.
Because the feelings you have are chemicals in your brain. When you take an action and you're moving forward through something, you are releasing different sets of chemicals into your brain. Different sets of chemicals cause different feelings. So I was like, oh, okay, I took the step forward. I'm feeling a little bit more confident, feeling more confident. So then what do you start to think? Oh, this isn't as hard. I can do this. I know what I'm doing. I'm feeling a lot better. And all of a sudden you can start to poke at that belief. And if you do that enough times, that belief starts to change. So then you have a different filter for those senses that come in. So that like maybe you do that 5, 6, 7 times, you've changed that belief filter. Now the next time those same senses come in, oh, I've got an impending meeting. The senses that you're thinking about with that impending meeting go through your filter of, but I know what my outcome is. I've outlined the meeting and I know how long it's going to take. Boom. Now you move back through. Next time you're not as nervous, worried, anxious, scared. Your thoughts are better and you can take better actions.